What? Someone had a bad opinion on a retro game? I'm on it. So I was replaying Tomb Raider and saw there was a few videos out there that just completely missed the point, which I'm not surprised at all. It seems like a lot of YouTubers think being overly critical and nitpicky makes them look witty or balanced, high-class critics. Well, I'm taking all that classic game design slander personally. Tank controls are not clunky. Low poly graphics are legitimate, and classic game design will never die. If you think Tomb Raider's clunky, jank, or outdated, I'm not here to convince you. I hope you continue to be incorrect so you can miss out on all these retro masterpieces that you don't deserve to experience. Stay away from Tomb Raider, stay away from Resident Evil, stay away from Metal Gear Solid. You cattle gamers don't deserve these works of art. Now, for the true gamers out there that can actually appreciate classic game design, here's my love letter to Tomb Raider. Now, when loading up Tomb Raider, before even playing the game, you get to play the tutorial map, Lara's Home, set in Lara's countryside manor. You get your first taste of the controls with this game, and the movement tech is taught to you step by step through Laura's narration.
Okay, let's do some tumbling. Press the jump button.
I highly recommend starting with this before jumping into the game, because the game has very precise tank controls and movement tech. There's a standing leap, a running jump, side flips, back flips, ledge grabs, a walk button. All of that gets explained here, and it will come in handy. Now, I'll be honest. Picking up this game, not being super familiar with tank controls, they do take a little getting used to. But when you do, this game feels very well crafted and very tightly designed. Tomb Raider isn't loosey-goosey like a Mario game. Now, I'm not saying that's bad, it's just this feels more limited. And people often say limited movement controls are clunky or jank, but really, they're just getting filtered by the minor inconveniences that the game was designed around. Look at Castlevania on the NES. Your movement there is also very limited, but the game is designed around that. And that's one of the greatest games on the console and one of the best games of all time. In Tomb Raider, the level design is built around a grid. Every jump has a determined trajectory. A standing leap won't take you as far as a running jump, but it will take you slightly higher. Some platforms will be further away, some higher up, so you need to be well versed in what Lara can and can't do, but when you get accustomed to this game's controls and movement tech, it makes solving the level design very satisfying. As I run through these caverns and ruins, I'm always looking around for places I can climb or jump to. Being built on a grid-based level design allows the platforming in each level to have very tight design, and it's always being able to be pushed to its limit. This makes progressing through each level be a puzzle in itself for the player to solve, and when you finally understand that, that is when the game really starts to get fun. People often complain about the tank controls in games, but genuinely, this is coming from a Zoomer that didn't grow up with these games. People my generation played Minecraft, Fortnite, Call of Duty. This is my first tank control game ever, other than I tried Resident Evil 1 out for an hour, I got filtered by the movement, and also just horror games stressed me out, so I had to put it down. But when I got to Tomb Raider, I actually forced myself to get good at the controls like a real gamer, and I'm glad I did, because this game was well worth it. So when I say tank controls are not clunky, and they're a perfectly legitimate control scheme, I'm not talking through some nostalgia bias. I'm not trying to shill you some hidden gem to boost my collection's value. I'm just speaking about game design. And if you can't get good at tank controls, then you're just a lower form of life and you don't deserve to experience this game. Another thing I'd like to add that other videos don't really seem to touch on much is Lara Croft has character and personality, notably more than other female protagonists, like Samus Aran for example. Reading the manual, you get some backstory. Lara's from a rich, aristocratic family. She was always a very high-class gal, but on her way home from a skiing trip, her charter plane crash-landed deep in the heart of the Himalayas. Lara was the only survivor, and had to learn how to depend on her wits to stay alive in the hostile conditions outside of the sheltered world she was raised in. After surviving and making her way back home, Lara felt suffocated by the atmosphere of the upper-class British society. She felt she only truly started living while traveling alone. Lara would spend the next 8 years training and studying ancient civilizations across the globe. Her family disowned her for her less-than-proper lifestyle, so Lara would turn to writing to fund her expeditions. During this time, Lara would make a name for herself as a great adventurer. We get to see more of this personality in the tutorial map as well. Lara has her foyer filled with large crates from either previous expeditions or maybe clearing out parts of her old life as an aristocrat, saying she needs to move the crates into storage still. But as a player, we get to use them as practice for climbing and jumping around. Moving on to the next room, Lara tells us it was previously her ballroom, but she had it renovated into a gym for training where we get even more practice in all the different movement tech needed for the real game. It also shows us how Lara has moved past her former life in the upper class of British high society and onto her new life as a world-class adventurer. In the console version of Tomb Raider, you use these save crystals placed throughout the levels. They're limited one-time use, so use them wisely. But honestly, just when you see one, use it, and then a few more minutes later, you'll find another one later on in the level. If you die, you have to reload to the previous save, or you can choose to restart the entire level if you wanted to. In the PC port of the game, you do get unlimited saves, so you can save anywhere you want, as many times as you want. So if you're emulating the console version like I am, don't feel bad if you just use save states to create more checkpoints for yourself. It makes dying less punishing, but even the devs didn't think that was much of an issue, so I don't really think it's an issue either. They probably wanted to have that as a feature from the get-go, but couldn't due to hardware limitations. A save file is 100 or so kilobytes. Your PS1 memory card would only store up to 1 megabyte. On a PC, you probably didn't have to worry as much about save files taking up too much space, so they probably had to limit the save files on console for a reason. Moving on to the music in Tomb Raider, instead of each level having a tune that plays throughout, there's only a handful of different tracks, and most are just audio cues that are triggered alongside a certain cinematic shot to give you a feel of wonder or excitement as you explore a new area, or to show off an awe-inspiring set piece, or triggered by an encounter with some wild animals to turn up the excitement and tension as you frantically hop around the room trying to dodge their teeth and claws as you gun them down. I think I read somewhere that there was some time constraints not allowing them to have more time to produce more tracks, but I feel like the few tracks we got are pretty solid and help balance the more atmospheric vibe of the quiet caves paired with only your echoing footsteps quite nicely. Another gameplay component that these YouTubers will whine about is the compass. Yeah, the compass is pretty worthless, I agree. But the reason it's worthless is because no level in Tomb Raider is really that difficult or confusing to get through. You don't always know exactly where to go, but it's very easy and simple to figure out. There was only one time in the entire game I'm running around the map saying, "Where the fuck do I go?" And that's very late game, and it's because I wasn't looking around in the one room where the switch I needed was. This level is the third to last level to be exact. So, yes, I had difficulty finding my way through one level end game. What the compass does is point you in the cardinal direction you need to travel towards, but the way to get there might not necessarily be in that direction. The room you need to go to might be west of where you currently are, but you might need to head south first and run around through hallways and rooms to eventually get there. It's never really needed through the game since the level design is really good and you're not going to be truly lost for very long. It's almost as if these wannabe game journalists want to always be told where to go or what to look for, or it's like they want to be handheld through the experience of the game and not actually overcome the challenge of the game. I'm not sure if these fake gamer crybabies understand this or not, but Tomb Raider is an adventure game. The point of the game is to explore and find your way through levels. You may be lost and have to solve the level design. That's the point. It seems like they want an arrow above your head at all times pointing you in the direction you need to go, like in Crazy Taxi, or perhaps a mini-map on screen with waypoints so you never have to do any thinking for yourself. I genuinely think these people just completely miss the point of the game. Maybe the game devs just had too much respect for the player, and a modern audience has endured too much brain rot to engage with something as well-crafted as Tomb Raider. Progressing through the game, you'll start to encounter tougher enemies. In the second map, you'll have your first run-in with a bear, and trust me, your first dozen or so times seeing one of these big boys is intense. I've previously talked about the movement in the game, but often throughout the game there are these swimming sections. You have to swim around and find levers to open doors for progression, and you can't take your time since you'll drown. That's not an issue though, since Laura controls very well underwater. Way better than most games at the time, and even thinking back to a lot of PS2 games from my childhood, the water control here are leagues better than almost every game I've ever had to have a water level in. It feels very natural and intuitive here. I was surprised how good the controls were swimming in Tomb Raider. Another gameplay element you'll encounter are the block puzzles. I think there's only one block puzzle in the game that takes more than a few seconds to solve. They're pretty much all very basic, either push a block forward or pull it backwards. Usually you just use it for platforming, sometimes you need to push it over a pressure plate to open a door. Again, people say this mechanic is clunky, and I'm honestly gonna lose my fucking shit. It's not clunky. When you push or pull a block, it only moves one grid space, and then you have to reset and push or pull it one more block, and very rarely do you have to push it more than a few squares. It's slightly inconvenient that you can't just push it endlessly and you have to reset after each space. Yeah, but it's not fucking clunky. And I swear, if I hear any of you fake gamers say that goddamn word again, I'm gonna clunk you upside the head with a fucking pipe wrench. Clunky would be if the controls weren't responsive, or if you were doing the inputs and they weren't responding as intended, forcing you to have to find some non-intended solution or just try to brute force your way through the jank. That's clunky. Here, the game responds perfectly as intended. It's just slightly less than perfect design. Get over it. I've heard comparisons from this game to a more modern series like Last of Us or Uncharted, which I've never played. I'm sure they're fine games and I need to get around to them at some point. They're currently blind spots for me. But the comparisons being made here are just ridiculous. In The Last of Us, there'd be a red line to guide the player to every objective to keep up with the pace the designers were looking for. Here, the designers weren't worrying about pacing in this game. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but the designers of Tomb Raider knew what they were doing. Tomb Raider doesn't need a red line telling you where to go. The level's layout does that perfectly fine. Finding your way through levels is pretty easy and it's fun to explore. It's just challenging enough to be engaging, but not overly cryptic to where you'll need to look up a map online. Every level is paced either perfect or just a tad bit longer than it should be, but it never really drags on for too long or overstays its welcome. Would it be better if the game just told me exactly what to do always and just pads out the game with busy work? The scary thing here is I'm younger than all of these slop tubers. These guys are a decade or so older than me, and here I am thinking they've rotted their brain away on TikTok to the point where they can't find their way through an early Tomb Raider level without a red arrow guiding them through it. It's honestly sad and scary. As you progress through the game, right when I got comfortable and I'm no longer afraid of the bears, we get to the Lost City. Don't worry, Laura. I'll protect you. Yeah. Don't show any signs of pain. It'll give Laura the ick. Be the Sigma you know you can be. Laura, did I look cool?
The coolest, Geno.
Yeah, when you enter this valley, that's the first oh shit moment of the game. Just when you got comfortable with the bear encounters, now we got dinos. This game never stops raising the tensions, and even the shot of the T-Rex popping in from out of the shadows is such a beautiful shot. This is the beauty of the PS1 cinematic game. Such a Kino era of gaming, honestly. 1995 through 2005 is probably the greatest 10-year span in gaming history, and sadly, I don't think it's even possible to ever match that. Every year, you'd get multiple S-tier game releases, a handful of A-tier, some B-tier games. Now we're lucky to get more than one A or maybe even an S-tier release in 1 year. So, the Lost Valley is my first S-tier map of the game, for this moment alone, but the rest of the map is fun as well, having you run around collecting cogs to block the waterfall that's barring you from reaching the level's end. It's such a well-designed map, full of action, full of iconic moments. It's got tough platforming as well. This is probably the most iconic level in the game. Another thing I'm seeing complaints about is lay heckin' evil boulder. I understand if the first time this trick got you, but you have to learn from it, right? Every time you see this kind of very long incline after this, you should just know what's coming, and you should be prepared. I don't think a boulder trap ever got me. I don't even think this one ever got me. They're so easy to escape, and you have a button that instantly turns you around. I'm not saying I've never died to a boulder. Early on, they'll be used as a trap, trying to catch you off guard while you're not paying attention. But late game, they'll be in your face. You know it's coming, and the devs expect you to know it's coming. But the real challenge is outmaneuvering them, and it can be really fun. After obtaining the first piece of Scion and roundhouse kicking Jack Larson's frickin' head off, the player moves on to the next set of levels and another one of my personal favorites, Sir Francis Folly. Now set in Greece as opposed to the previous Peruvian maps, the color palette shifts from a cool gray to a warm brown. The wolves replaced by lions, the bears replaced by gorillas, the water now inhabited by crocs to increase the pressure and tension while swimming. The player will also encounter another one of Natla's hired men, Pierre Dupont. He functions the same as Larson did. Just shoot him until he dips off screen, or behind a pillar, or move your camera around so his character model can despawn. This map's centerpiece is a tower of pillars. You have to climb up and down to access 4 different rooms based on different myths: Neptune, Thor, Damocles, and Atlas. Each of the 4 different rooms are pretty easy aside from the Thor room. Make sure to save before this one because it's got a few instant death traps. The hammer is pretty obvious. The camera will pan up and show you it's going to drop down, so you just need to stand on the pressure plate long enough to let the hammer drop, but not too long where it'll crush you. However, before you get there, there's the disco ball of death. If you enter this room, you're going to be struck by lightning and die instantly. I don't really understand this trap and just brute force my way through it, trial and error again and again until I make it through, and then I have to do that again on the way back. This is probably maybe I just don't understand, but this might be like actually bad design in a game because it doesn't really, it's not telegraphed well what you need to do. After getting the 4 keys to unlock the level's exit, there's 4 separate locks. This game makes you open your inventory and select a key, so you could potentially try to use an incorrect key, making you have to try a different one, so it's a very, very minor inconvenience. So of course we got slop tubers crying about this. Now here's the trick. If you go up to the first lock from left to right, the way that you read, by the way, the first key in your inventory that's selected will work. Then that key's gone. Then you move over to the next key over, and the first key in your inventory now is the correct key. And then the next one is the correct key again. So it's idiot-proofed. But sadly, of course, that's not enough to keep these nitpickers from finding something to cry about. And now here's another trick. Just in case that first one didn't get you, you're so stupid that just, you completely missed that safeguard. Here's another guardrail. One key's golden, and there's a golden lock. I wonder what happens if you put together Spoiler alert. That's the correct, that's the solution. There you go. It kind of reminds me of those toys everyone had as a baby. You know, the classic put the square peg in the square hole. I don't get it. I don't get how neither of those safeguards or guardrails saved these people. The complaint I hear is, you have to try all the keys until you find the right one, and there's no consequence for failure, so your choices don't really matter. This is a bad puzzle. If you lost your key and had to, for using the wrong one like a dumb fuck, and had to go back to the Thor room to get that key a second time, the same slop tuber would cry up a storm about that inconvenience. The criticism that this quote-unquote puzzle is bad since there's no consequences had me thunderstruck. The sheer level of stupidity. This isn't a puzzle. The developers didn't think you'd be stupid enough to try the silver key in the golden lock. And if you did, hey, no big deal. Just take a closer look and try again. You know, maybe you weren't paying attention. That's fine. I have a hard time believing this is a legitimate criticism. The sad thing is the video this is from has more views than the rest by far, and it's the worst. It has millions of views and is by far the worst retrospective video on Tomb Raider I've ever had the displeasure of seeing. This criticism can't be legit. It's a thinly veiled attempt at nitpicking the game to death to pad out their dog shit retrospective video and trick viewers into correcting them in the comments section to help them out in the algorithm. That's exactly why I call these people fake gamers. Yeah, I make YouTube videos too, but it's to talk about the games I love so much that I'm experiencing for the first time and to correct the record on all the dumb shit I'm seeing about them. Where these nitpickers don't care about the games. They don't have any real opinions or any deep analysis. That's just desperation for views so they don't have to work real jobs like you and me. They peddle fake opinions under the guise of witty analysis. And the worst part of it all, the part that really grinds my gears, is game devs will see a multi-million view video and actually listen to it. And so future games are being screwed over by these wannabe fake journalists. And as a true gamer, it sickens me. We have a Tomb Raider 1 remake coming out this year. Is it going to have the classic Tomb Raider gameplay and design? Or is it going to have some shitty red through line to tell you where to go? And every key will work for any lock because, well, the modern gamer is too fucking stupid to figure out the golden key goes to the golden lock. I'm begging for a classic game design to come back, please. But unfortunately, the videos that have millions of views are these dumb fucks that can't figure out how to pass the tutorial level in Cuphead. The level, Palace Midas. This level is really fun to run through, and it twists and winds around itself in a Metroidvania-esque layout. There's a room with a pretty fun puzzle having you decipher a code on each door. One symbol represents up on a switch, the other symbol representing down. Then, entering each room offers a different challenge. My favorite being the room where you have to jump across the platforms before the fire turns back on, giving it a time trial feel to it. It's really fun. Then, after obtaining the iron ingots from each room, you bring them to the ruined statue of Midas, which if you're old, then you've definitely heard of the Midas touch before. It's a myth about a guy who could turn anything to gold with a single touch. If the player steps onto his hand, you get the coolest death scene in the game. Laura turns to solid gold. Very iconic, but you're already golden to me, Laura. What you're meant to do is place the iron bars onto the hand, then turn them into gold, which you can use to unlock the exit door. This is a really fun level for me and also pretty iconic, I'd say. As you progress through the game, the traps get more tricky, the platforming gets tougher, and I love the game for it. But the levels also start to get longer, and at times it works really well, but for some levels, it does run on a little longer than I'd like, but it's only a tiny bit. This game isn't perfect, but it sure as hell comes close. And as we move on to the Egyptian levels, the game will take on a more eerie vibe. That shadowy, low draw distance is often used to the game's advantage to create these epic set pieces. Again, the enemies are traded out, but this time they're replaced with Black Panthers, mummies, and these demonic fleshy centaurs. The 3 Egypt levels are all really fun. The second one has the center pillar room with 4 keys. You need to go through different pathways to get to each key, They offer a different challenge in platforming or puzzle solving. It's really fun, and when I think of Tomb Raider, this is what I think of. Now, the Sanctuary of Sion level is again another S tier map. This has a massive sphinx for you to climb, and so many fun platforming challenges. And now we got even more of these fleshy demon creatures that replace the mummies, and even we got gargoyle variants. Also, you can tell the game devs were feeling extra trollsome the day they designed this map because there's an invisible platform in the sky, and if you can get to it, it lets you obtain the Uzis early on. Now, of course, this is something people have to nitpick because it breaks their immersion since it's not something grounded in reality, but you know, I thought it was pretty cool. Moving on to the end game, we have the completed Scion, and Natla, along with her hired men, drop in on us, taking the Scion and our guns. Lara escapes only to sneak onto Natla's boat and follow after them. This brings us to the map Natla's Mines, which might be my favorite map in the game. Yeah, we're not plundering any ruined pyramid or lost city. It's just a mine shaft. But it's such a cool level. You don't have your weapons anymore, so first up, we gotta go find them. And you can very easily sequence break the game and progress without your weapons by brute forcing your way to the end of this level. But if you don't do that on accident, which it is kinda hard to get there, you have to find these 3 fuses to drop a crane and access your weapons. The reason it's easy to sequence break is one of the fuses is in a room where you're going to have one of the guys shooting at you. So you might try to just run through that because you don't have your weapons yet. You might try to just run through that room and progress. And then you keep progressing until you get to the next guy and you don't have your guns yet. So you keep just trying to brute force your way forward. What you're supposed to do is pick up that first fuse and run back and find the other 2, and then get your guns and return with your guns to fight that first guy. It's easy to mess up, but it's hard to mess up at the same time. Now, the platforming challenges really start to ramp up here, especially in the boulder room. I love this room. You have to jump over these hurdles and outpace this rolling boulder to get into the room before it's blocked off. If you aren't quick enough, you have to leave this room, loop back, come back, try again. The complaint here is, oh, well, who's pushing the boulder back up to the hill to reset this little trap for you? This is too video gamey. So, in case it wasn't obvious to, it's the fucking boulder fairy. He resets the trap to give you another chance at, which, hey, I appreciate, because if he didn't do that for you, you'd be soft-locked. And also, it's a fun challenge. Oh, it's too video gamey. Yeah, we're playing a video game. This isn't a Marvel movie. This level also has not just 1, but 3 hired guns to encounter. The cowboy, skater, and the bald guy. They're all pretty standard, though, other than the skater guy moves faster than the other 2, and he has Uzi, so he is a little bit more challenging. But as the level ends, now we're entering the Pyramid of Atlantis. The walls are made up of an animated, fleshy material. The meat demons become more prevalent, the platforming and traps even trickier than before. These final 2 levels are a pure joyride as the game throws everything it can at the player. People cry out about these levels because the death pits are BS. How could you see this coming? Yeah, for example, there's a room with levers. You have to stand on a platform to pull the switch. Obviously, if I pull this switch, it's going to open a trap door. I don't know what's below there. So what am I going to do? I'm going to pull the switch and immediately jump before I fall. Then I can investigate the trap door before I leap. I really don't think the game devs are expecting too much from you at this point. I mean, it's obvious stuff here if you ask me. Afterwards, there's a cool room with a doppelganger demon. She looks kind of like Laura, but without skin, and she's got these like ET bug eyes. If you've played a Zelda game before, you've encountered a puzzle like this. All you have to do is get their mirrored movement to cause Bacon Laura to fall into a lava pit, and then you can progress forward. The fact that people complain about this section of the game is just bizarre to me. We're playing a game, we're like fucking 12 hours into the game. Do you want it to be as easy as the beginning? I appreciate that the game devs respected me enough to ramp up the difficulty, to throw more tricks and traps at me. Do these people even like playing video games? I'm genuinely lost here. This is a pretty fun fight. Might be the best fight in the whole game. You have to outmaneuver the torso without falling off the edge. And when it's over... Oh, come on, man. Don't get sad. Don't get all sad over it. I was just trolling around. Ah, shit. I think it's dead. This is why I'm not allowed to keep pets. The rest of the level is really fun. After destroying the Scion, the player has to escape the pyramid as it self-destructs. Every platforming challenge requires fast reaction time, or else you're gonna die and have to try again. Jumping over lava, escaping boulders, dodging these scythe pendulums, hopping over spike pits. Getting to that final room, we encounter Natla as the final boss. Now, in her Atlantean form. She's grown bat wings as she flies around the room shooting at us with these explosives or with darts. And after killing her, Laura quickly platforms her way to the exit of the pyramid to escape seconds before it explodes. Now that it's all said and done, was Tomb Raider any good? Well, instead of giving you some kind of meme answer,
Wet clothes.
out of 10, I'll actually answer the question. Yeah, it was fucking awesome. I give Tomb Raider 1 a 9 out of 10. It's easily in a high A tier game. The controls are really good. The platforming is really tightly designed. Throughout the game, progresses nicely. The camera controls are good. I especially love the cinematic camera angles we get. The level design and layouts are not too confusing or cryptic, just enough to be fun and engaging, but you'll never feel lost for long or need to look up a guide. Nothing in this game is clanky or jank. The only real criticism I have is the combat could be better, and maybe a handful of levels could be a tad bit shorter. So, yes, Tomb Raider 1 is not perfect, but it damn comes close. There is a DLC expansion for this game. It was exclusive to the PC port, and those maps are really long. I'm talking 2 hours per map, and they're kind of just remakes from the base game from what I saw so far. I haven't finished them. I've only played the first 2 of the 4 massive levels. The HD remaster that has the entire Tomb Raider 1 through 3 trilogy that came out, I think, 2 years ago, it has them built in. So if you have that release, you can play them if you want. I'm going to pass on them. They're just too long and they're not really paced well. I'm also not really a fan of that release's modern control scheme they add, but if you don't want to get good at the tank controls, it might be a good way for a modern audience to experience such an amazing game. Tomb Raider isn't perfect, and I did go pretty hard in this video towards the critics, but that's only because their criticisms are honestly brutally stupid, and I don't think they're being genuine. It's okay if you don't personally like Tomb Raider. Perhaps it's not just your cup of tea. Maybe you don't like the slow-paced adventure and you want something more action-y. Hey, that's fine. But that doesn't make this game janky or the controls clunky. I personally think this is an amazing game, and if someone told me they beat Tomb Raider 1 and loved it, I'd respect their opinion on games. If someone told me, fuck Tomb Raider 1, it's clunky, it's jank, their opinion is thrown in the bin where it belongs. All these YouTubers that want to cry and cry about how gaming is dead is ridiculous. Gaming now is at the best it's ever been. Everything is more accessible now. In the 90s, you had to buy all of these games at full price. And a lot of the games would be PAL region locked or Japan only and never got translated. Now we have fan translations. We even have ROM hacks for games that you loved as a kid. You can experience a new way or with a new challenge, or sometimes they're basically whole new games. Accessibility is greater now more than it ever has been, and it's literally only going to get better. Gaming is not dead. In classic game design will never die. You just have to get over the fact that all these modern game design, like over conveniences and over casualization, yeah, the old games don't have those. Instead, they just have good classic game design. If you love retro games, if you love the cinematic PS1 games, I plan on exploring all of the ones that I never had as a kid. They're before my time. If you love those games, please like and subscribe. I'm definitely going to be checking out more Tomb Raider games in the future, more classic PS1 games, more classic 90s and early 2000s games. And of course, thanks for watching.